The conference room was filled with the usual Monday morning tension, the air thick with the scent of burnt coffee and the low hum of fluorescent lights. At 10:47 a.m., the team gathered around the long, polished table, staring at the screen where a graph displayed a promising upward trend. The red arrow shot up like a rocket, a beautiful sight for anyone who understood numbers. But for Jake, it was a different story. His heart raced like a jackhammer, pounding against his chest, but he dismissed it as just too much coffee. He always drank too much coffee. Peterson from accounting nodded, feigning interest, while their boss, Mark, scrutinized the screen with a look that suggested he was questioning the worth of coming into the office that day. Half the marketing department was glued to their phones, scrolling through emails or social media, seemingly oblivious to the meeting. Jake's hand trembled slightly as he pointed at the chart. It wasn't just nerves, a sharp pain sliced through his chest, unlike anything he had experienced in recent months. This felt different, as if someone had shoved a hot iron into his heart. He clutched his shirt, trying to catch his breath, but the air felt thick and unyielding. Everyone's eyes turned towards him, and Peterson raised an eyebrow, concern etched on his face. "Are you okay?" he asked, but his voice sounded distant, muffled as if underwater. No, nothing was okay. Nothing had been okay for months. The late-night chest pains he had brushed off as stress were now screaming for attention. 70-hour workweeks for the past 2 years had taken their toll, all to keep up with mounting expenses, the house, the car, the new boutique Felicetti that his wife, Clara, had opened, and the projects from his father-in-law, Robert. Everything had spiraled out of control, and he was running to catch up like a madman. The conference room spun around him, the ugly beige carpet rising up to meet his face at an alarming speed. He collapsed. Panic erupted in the room. Someone shouted for an ambulance. Jake could hear Peterson's voice, laced with urgency, as he knelt beside him, his breath smelling of coffee and cigarettes. Mark stood over them, repeating oh my God," like a mantra, utterly unprofessional. As Jake lay there on the grimy carpet, thoughts of his grandfather Elias flickered through his mind. "Never trust anyone with your money," the wise old man had said. If only he had listened. His heart pounded, but now it felt different, weaker, as if it were slowing down. Was this what death felt like? At 34, ending up on a beige carpet in a conference room? Clara would be devastated. Where was Clara? Paramedics rushed in with a stretcher. A young woman with fiery red hair placed an oxygen mask over his face, the scent of disinfectant and mint filling his nostrils. "Hang in there, buddy," she said. "You're having a heart attack. We're taking you to the hospital." A heart attack. At 34. In the ambulance, the sirens wailed, and red lights flashed outside the windows. The paramedic checked his blood pressure for the 3rd time. "Where's your wife?" she asked. "Clara," he managed to whisper through the mask. "Call Clara." But where was she? It was Monday morning. She should be at home or at the boutique. His heart raced again, not from the heart attack, but from the gnawing question that wouldn't leave his mind. Where was his wife? The fluorescent lights in the ambulance burnt his eyes like spotlights. At St. Mary's Hospital, the familiar smell of disinfectant mixed with despair and cheap coffee hit him. A nurse in a cap-patterned scrubs leaned over him, her sweet face marred by tired eyes that had seen too much. "Welcome back," she said, adjusting the foredrip. "You had a serious heart episode." An episode. It sounded like a title for a TV show. "Dr. Martinez will be in shortly to talk," she added. "How are you feeling?" How was he feeling? Like a truck had run over his chest, backed up, and hit him again just to be sure. Clara's voice echoed in his mind, soft and reassuring. "We'll try to reach her," the nurse said, asking for Clara's number. Jake provided it, and she scribbled it down with a pink pen. Everything about this place felt childish: cat scrubs, pink pens, as if illness could somehow be less frightening in a world of childish gadgets. Dr. Martinez entered half an hour later, tall and bald with a beard that reminded Jake of a lumberjack. His expression was serious. He hadn't come to discuss the weather. "Mr. Thompson," he said, checking the chart. "Your heart attack was serious. 34 is young for something like this. Family history? Smoking? Stress?" Jake recounted the past few months, the 70-hour work weeks, the chest pains he had ignored, the constant financial stress. "You need family support," Dr. Martinez said, jotting down notes. "It's a long road to recovery." "Clara knows," Jake replied. "She's on her way." The doctor nodded, but Jake could see the flicker of doubt in his eyes. Doctors had a knack for sensing lies like bloodhounds. The first day passed, and Clara didn't show up. The cat scrub nurse gently inquired about his family. Jake explained that Clara had an important meeting. The Felicetti boutique needed her attention. It was a woman-run business, they understood. On the second day, his phone buzzed with a message. The new nurse, wearing a unicorn-themed scrub, explained that Clara had fallen ill, probably a stomach virus. She didn't want to risk spreading it in the hospital. "Anyone else in your family?" the unicorn nurse asked. "Parents? Siblings?" "You have to trust me," he replied, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "I've trusted her for 8 years." He imagined their life together, their home, the children they might someday have. He envisioned happiness, but happiness felt like a distant memory now, slipping through his fingers like sand. Jake Thompson watched as his wife, Jessica, walked through the door, her gym bag slung over her shoulder. She headed straight for the bathroom without meeting his gaze. "Intense workout," she called back over her shoulder, her voice light, but Jake could sense the tension beneath it. The bag looked dry, and for the first time in months, she had forgotten her phone. It lay on the kitchen counter, a ticking time bomb. As he brewed a fresh pot of espresso with the new machine they had bought for Christmas, the phone began to vibrate. One buzz, then another, and another. The screen lit up with a series of messages from someone named M. Jake hesitated. 8 years of marriage had taught him to respect privacy, but the heart emoji that flashed on the screen cut through his resolve like a knife. He picked up the phone, scrolling through the messages that spanned weeks, maybe months. The last one caught his breath. "I miss how you kiss my neck." His heart raced as he recalled the previous Friday night, room 411 at the Marriott. The details flooded back, and he felt a sickening twist in his stomach. He had been waiting for her to return home, but she had been with someone else. The realization hit him hard, and he quickly took screenshots of the most damning messages, knowing they would serve as evidence. The sound of the shower stopped, and he hastily placed the phone back on the counter, just as Jessica emerged, a towel wrapped around her body, her hair damp and cascading over her shoulders. She looked beautiful, as always, but now he knew the truth behind her beauty. She reached for her phone, her brow furrowing as she noticed the screen was active. "Everything okay?" she asked, her voice laced with suspicion. "Yeah, just making coffee," he replied, lying as easily as she had for months. She disappeared into the bedroom, and he could hear her moving quickly, likely texting M to warn him that something was off. Jake remained in the kitchen, the cold coffee forgotten, his mind racing with thoughts of betrayal. The woman he loved was slipping away, replaced by someone else, someone who shared their bed but whose thoughts were elsewhere. For the next 2 days, Jake operated like a surgeon, precise, methodical, and devoid of emotion. He printed the incriminating screenshots at work, careful to keep them hidden from Jessica. The colorful copies of their conversations would speak volumes in any courtroom. He stashed them in a binder beneath insurance documents, a secret he would keep until the right moment. He called the Marriott under the guise of an insurance investigator. "Yes, I'm looking into a claim regarding room 411. A reservation under Michael Thompson last Friday? Check in at 5? The details matched perfectly with what Jessica had told him. Jake scrutinized their joint finances, discovering Jessica's spending habits. She had been frequenting cafes and shops near the Marriott, paying for parking downtown while claiming to be at the gym in the suburbs. Google Photos became a treasure trove of evidence. She had deleted pictures from their shared account but forgot to empty the trash. There it was, a selfie in the hotel room mirror, her in black lingerie she had bought in February. Not for him, but for Michael. The worst part was realizing how long this had been going on. She had booked hotel rooms on their joint credit card while deleting notifications from their shared email. He recovered deleted messages from the trash, revealing a timeline of deceit stretching back months. 4 months of systematic lies. Jake bought a romantic card at a bookstore on 3rd Street, one that read, "You're mine forever." Inside, he placed the most damning screenshot, the one where she had told Michael, "I love how you make me feel desired." The words stung like a slap. He planned the confrontation meticulously, choosing a public restaurant where Jessica couldn't escape or cause a scene. But first, he needed to plant the card. The next evening, while Jessica was in the bathroom, he slipped into her car and placed the card under the registration documents in the glove compartment, a little bomb waiting to explode at the right moment. Returning home, he found Jessica pouring herself a glass of wine, her demeanor attempting to be casual, but he could see the tension in her shoulders, the way she checked her phone every few minutes. She knew something had shifted. Women had instincts for these things. But she had no idea how deep the shift ran. Jake sat across from her, not beside her as he usually did. The distance felt palpable, a chasm filled with unspoken words and hidden truths. "How was your day?" he asked, keeping his tone light, masking the storm brewing inside him. "Busy," she replied, her eyes darting to her phone again. "Just the usual." He nodded, watching her closely. The way she fidgeted with her glass, the nervous glances at the phone, it all spoke volumes. He wanted to confront her, to demand the truth, but he held back, waiting for the right moment to unleash the evidence he had gathered. As the evening wore on, Jake felt the weight of the truth pressing down on him. He had gathered everything he needed, but the confrontation loomed ahead like a dark cloud. The tension in the room was thick, and he could sense that Jessica was aware of it too. The game was about to change, and he was ready to play his hand. The silence stretched between Nathan and Jessica, thick and suffocating, as they drove away from the restaurant. The city lights flickered past the window, casting shadows across Jessica's face like a zebra's stripes. Nathan kept his expression neutral, a stone mask hiding the turmoil inside. "Are you okay, Nathan?" Jessica finally asked, breaking the tension. "Yeah, just thinking about work," he replied, the lie tasting bitter on his tongue. It was a familiar game they played, but this time, he was the one holding the cards. The drive felt endless, each moment stretching out as they navigated the familiar streets of their suburban neighborhood. "Maybe we should talk?" Jessica suggested tentatively. "Not now," he said, his voice colder than he intended. It was the kind of anger that simmered beneath the surface, the kind that didn't shout or slam doors but plotted in silence. He attempted to bridge the gap between them twice more, bringing up mundane topics like the weather and the electric bill, but his words fell flat. The radio played a love song, and Jessica reached to turn it off. "Leave it," he said, wanting to hear the hollow promises of fidelity that echoed between them. They arrived home, the white facade of their house illuminated by the porch light, the blue shutters standing as a testament to normalcy. Jessica stepped out first, leaving the door ajar as if inviting him in or challenging him to follow. Nathan lingered in the car for a moment longer, pulling the card from his pocket, the one he had originally planned to slip into her glove compartment. But now, he felt the urge to confront her directly. He approached her car, opened the glove compartment, and placed the card under the registration documents, a little surprise waiting for the right moment. Inside, he found Jessica curled up on the couch, her legs tucked beneath her, trying to appear relaxed. But her hand trembled as she raised her glass of wine to her lips. "Want some?" she asked, gesturing to the bottle. "No," he replied, taking a seat across from her instead of beside her, the same spot he had occupied the night before. Jessica's eyes narrowed, sensing the shift in their dynamic. Minutes passed in silence, the clock ticking on the mantel like a time bomb. Jessica checked her phone repeatedly, likely waiting for a message from Michael, the name that had become a ghost haunting their marriage. "Nathan, you're acting really strange," she said, her voice laced with concern. "Am I?" he asked, meeting her gaze. "What's going on with you?" He tried to see the woman he had married 8 years ago, but all he could see was someone who had perfected the art of deceit. "Nothing's going on," he finally said, "just thinking about trust and how easily it can be lost." Jessica's expression shifted, understanding dawning as they approached a point of no return. "Nathan, if you think that. We'll talk tomorrow." "I'm tired tonight," he interrupted, rising from his chair. Jessica looked at him, a mix of fear and frustration in her eyes. He wanted to control the narrative, to dictate the terms of this conversation before it spiraled out of her grasp. He retreated to the guest bedroom, the first time in 8 years he wouldn't be sleeping next to his wife. The light in their main bedroom burned late into the night, and Nathan could sense Jessica on the couch, pretending everything was normal while watching him like a cat watching its prey. Minutes turned into hours as he sat across from her, the distance between them now palpable. The clock continued its relentless ticking. Jessica sipped her wine, checked her phone, and set it down again, likely wondering why Michael hadn't reached out. "Who is Michael from your work?" he asked bluntly, cutting through the tension. Jessica stiffened, the glass pausing mid-air. "What Michael?" she replied, her voice rising an octave, a classic tactic to deflect. "The one who texted you at 1 in the morning. Room 411, Marriott, last Friday," he pressed, watching as wine spilled onto her black dress. Jessica's eyes widened, shock and fear mingling in her expression. "Nathan, what are you talking about?" But he could see the truth in her shrinking demeanor. "You went through my phone," she squeaked, her voice rising in pitch. "You left it on the kitchen counter." "He told me everything," Nathan shot back, recalling the panic in her eyes 3 days ago. "It's not what you think," she stammered, desperation creeping into her tone. "I miss how you used to kiss my neck." "How am I supposed to interpret that?" he asked, his voice steady. Silence enveloped them, heavy with the weight of unspoken truths. "You haven't touched me in weeks. You wouldn't even notice if I disappeared." "Is that your sentiment or his?" "Nathan, how many times? How many Fridays at the Marriott?" Jessica shot up, the wine staining the carpet, but she didn't care. "Fine. Yes, I'm seeing Michael. But it's because of you." "Because of me?" he echoed incredulously. "You're boring. Predictable. Cold. When was the last time you really saw me? When did we talk about anything other than bills and work?" Her voice cracked, not from regret but from anger at being exposed. so it's my fault you cheated? It's your fault I sought attention elsewhere. The words hung between them like toxic smoke, and Jessica realized the gravity of her statement too late. I didn't mean it like that, she tried to backtrack, but it was too late. It meant exactly what it meant, Nathan said, standing up. Jessica took a step back, as if he were about to strike her. But he wouldn't. Not like that. Nathan stepped into the guest room, his heart heavy with the weight of their confrontation. I would never do that. I don't have to. The truth hurts more than any blow, he muttered, his voice low and strained. He closed the door behind him, leaving Jessica alone amidst spilled wine and shattered lies. The light in their bedroom flickered on, casting shadows that danced across the walls. Nathan could hear her pacing back and forth, likely crafting messages to Michael, warning him, plotting more deceit. But the lies had run their course. The next morning, Jessica moved through the house like a ghost, avoiding eye contact as she poured herself a cup of coffee with trembling hands. She looked like someone who hadn't slept a wink. Nathan caught her whispering into her phone from the kitchen, her voice a hushed murmur. We need to talk, she said, and he knew it was Michael on the other end. Of course, Nathan thought bitterly. He told his boss he had caught a virus, but the truth was that Jessica was the virus that had been destroying his life for months. He found her in the bedroom, packing a small bag. Where are you going? He asked, his voice steady but laced with disbelief. To Rachel's for a few days. Until things cool down, she replied, jumping slightly as if caught in a lie. Rachel and her sister live across town. Convenient alibi, he said, crossing his arms. No, you're not going anywhere. We need to sort this out now. Time ran out 3 months ago, Nathan shot back, moving to his desk and pulling out a binder. Jessica watched in horror as he spread printed screenshots across the bed like playing cards. Her face drained of color. You kept all of this? You're a real psychopath, she accused, her voice trembling. No, I kept the truth. The truth you tried to erase, he replied, laying out more evidence, pictures from hotel mirrors, credit card statements, recovered emails. I love the way you make me feel desired, he read aloud, his tone cold. Jessica sank onto the edge of the bed, her expression a mix of anger and disbelief. I didn't mean it like that, she stammered. No, you meant exactly what you said, Nathan replied, standing tall. How many times did you lie next to me, planning your next meeting with him? How many times did you kiss me goodnight after coming back from his bed? Tears streamed down Jessica's face, but it wasn't remorse, it was rage at being caught. Yes, I'm with Michael. It's not just sex, we love each other. The words hit Nathan like a slap, but they were honest. It was the first truth he had heard in months. He's not boring like you, she continued, her voice gaining strength. He sees the real me, not the housewife you've turned me into. A housewife? Nathan echoed incredulously. You work full-time. But at home, you're nobody. Just someone who shares my bed and bills. Jessica stood, wiping her tears. I was going to tell you after your birthday next month. But you ruined everything by spying. Spying? He shot back. I accidentally saw what you forgot to hide. She began to pack her things more aggressively, muttering about controlling men and privacy violations. 15 minutes later, she stormed outside with her bag. Nathan heard her open the car door, followed by a frustrated scream. She returned, holding a card in her hand. This was cruel, Nathan. Even for you. The card was open, revealing a picture of them and messages attached to a romantic note. I would have noticed if you disappeared, he said quietly. I noticed everything. I want a divorce. The words fell between them like a stone dropped into a well. Jessica stopped crying, momentarily stunned as if she hadn't expected this finality. Nathan, she began, but he cut her off. I understand the legal realities of our situation. The house is in my name, but after 8 years of marriage, you're entitled to half. I'm willing to accept that, he said, his tone businesslike. Jessica blinked, trying to process his words. But I want you to leave now. Take what you need and live wherever you want until everything is officially settled. This is my home too, she protested. It was? When you were my wife. Now you're Michael's woman. He sat on the bed next to the piles of evidence, watching her as she stood in the doorway, looking lost. Fine, you want honesty? Her voice was firm now. Michael and I have been together for 3 months. It's not just sex, we love each other. For the first time, Nathan heard the truth without lies or excuses. He's not boring like you, she repeated. He sees the real me, not the housewife you've made me into. A housewife, he echoed again, incredulous. You have your own money, your own life. But here, I'm nobody. Just a wife without passion, a woman without dreams. Michael makes me feel alive. Jessica paced the room, gesturing wildly as if finally able to voice everything she had thought for months. I planned to tell you after your birthday next month. To handle everything nicely, but you ruined it with your spying. It wasn't spying. It was an accident, he replied. The difference is we'd been drifting apart for years. You consciously chose another man and lied to my face for months. Jessica packed her things with renewed determination, muttering about controlling men and privacy. But deep down, she knew she had lost. 20 minutes later, she emerged with 2 bags. Nathan heard the car door creak open, followed by another frustrated scream. She returned, holding the card again. This was cruel, Nathan. Even for you. The romantic card was open, revealing a screenshot of her messages attached to a loving note. More cruel than you not noticing if I disappeared, he asked, his voice steady. It was in a moment of weakness. It was the truth. Your truth about our marriage. Jessica folded the card, tucking it into her purse. You'll receive the divorce papers in the mail, she said, her voice steady but laced with finality. She stepped out of the house for the last time as his wife, the sound of her car tires screeching against the asphalt echoing in Nathan's ears. He stood alone in their home, a place that now felt foreign, stripped of the warmth it once held. The silence was different, not an emptiness but a calm after the storm. It was the first note of a new song, one that hinted at who he was becoming. The next day, Rachel, Jessica's sister, called. Her voice was cautious, as if she were walking on thin ice. Jess told me you're getting a divorce. What happened? Nathan recounted the brief tale of Michael, the man who had taken his wife's heart. Rachel sighed deeply. I was afraid something like this would happen. I saw them together last month at that cafe downtown. They were holding hands. I thought he was just a coworker. Jessica has changed recently, Rachel continued, her tone shifting to concern. She's become different. More aggressive. I didn't think she was capable of this. Be prepared, she warned. She'll try to paint you as the controlling husband. An hour later, Jessica's mother called, furious. How could you throw my daughter out on the street? Nathan explained the situation, but he could sense that Jessica had spun her own narrative. In her mother's eyes, he was the villain, the husband who had spied on his innocent wife, punishing her for imagined transgressions. Jessica is a good girl. Maybe things weren't perfect, but marriage takes work from both sides, her mother insisted, as if infidelity were merely a communication issue rather than a choice. As word spread among their friends, alliances formed like in a medieval war. Mike from work called that evening. "Man, I always knew something was off with her. She's too pretty for you, you know?" It was meant to be comforting, but it felt like salt in a fresh wound. Sarah, a friend of Jessica's, left a message on his voicemail. "Nathan, I don't know what happened, but Jessica is devastated. Maybe you two should go to couples therapy?" Couples therapy. To fix what one of them had consciously destroyed. Tom from their friend group tried to be diplomatic. "I always thought you two were a perfect match. It's a shame it couldn't be saved." Others expressed sympathy, but Nathan could see in their eyes that many had secretly questioned the issues in their marriage. Perhaps they were the last to believe in their happiness. David, his brother, arrived that evening with beer and pizza. "She always looked like someone waiting for someone else to walk into the room," he said, cracking open a beer. "Like an actress playing the role of a wife, but her mind was elsewhere." "Why didn't you tell me?" Nathan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "What was I supposed to say? That your wife seemed unhappy? That she was looking at other men?" David shook his head. "No one wants to be the bearer of bad news." "How are you feeling?" David asked. "Strange. Like I'm both furious and calm at the same time. It's shocking." "It'll pass," David reassured him. They drank in silence, watching a game on TV as if it were just another ordinary night, as if his life hadn't shattered into pieces just 24 hours ago. "You're going to need a lawyer," David finally said. "I know. A good one." "I know. But finding a lawyer was easier than finding a way to trust anyone again." A week later, Jessica returned with her attorney to collect her belongings. The lawyer explained the divorce process, asset division, and the lack of alimony since they both worked. Jessica was cold and formal, not even looking at Nathan. "You'll receive the divorce papers in the mail," the lawyer stated matter-of-factly. After they left, Nathan changed the locks. It was symbolic, not legal, but he needed that boundary. He took down the gallery of photos in the hallway, wedding portraits, vacation selfies, holiday smiles, everything went into a box for the attic. He hung up an abstract painting that Jessica had always hated. "Too depressing," she'd said. Now, it felt just right. He converted the guest room into an office, buying new blue sheets to replace the white ones Jessica had chosen. Small changes that signified a new beginning. An official letter from Jessica's lawyer arrived with a settlement proposal, accompanied by a personal note. "I was empty inside. You didn't see that." Maybe she was empty, but she filled that void with lies. Nathan signed the divorce papers, agreeing to a fair division. The house would remain his, but he would pay her half its value. It felt fair. He sold his wedding ring, putting the money aside for a future home, one that would be solely his. He cooked a real dinner for himself, inviting his brother Adam over. They ate steak and talked about everything except Jessica. "She always looked like someone waiting for someone else to walk into the room," Adam remarked. A month later, Nathan received a message from a mutual friend. Jessica and Michael had announced their engagement. He smiled. She had quickly found a substitute for stability. Michael didn't yet know that Jessica needed constant attention, constant admiration. That when the novelty wore off, she would start seeking someone new. But that was no longer Nathan's problem. He returned to the bookstore on 3rd Street, where he used to buy books before meeting Jessica. He reconnected with old friends he had neglected during his marriage. He began planning a solo trip, the first time in years he thought only of his own desires. 3 months later, the divorce was officially finalized. He kept a copy of the document as a reminder. Not all stories have happy endings, but all can have closure. The silence in the house sounded different now. It was no longer emptiness, it was the sound of a storm passing. The first note of the song of who he was becoming. Michael could have her now. But Nathan had something better, he had the truth about who she really was. And he had freedom from that knowledge. Knowledge doesn't always set one free, but sometimes it allows one to walk away. Subscribe to the channel.